So, today's topic, or whatever, this video, could be the same day. It's not important. The point I'm making is this video is about the Angler God theory. This theory is best described as an alternative viewpoint on the Christian God. I cannot say for certain how many other religions would or could apply to this, but for the sake of argument, we will say for now that it applies directly to the Christian concept of an all powerful being capable of everything, or at least more than we could ever be capable of, personally, and existing in some sense other than merely physically. I mean, if God does exist, I suppose you could say it would be not in this plane of existence, or perhaps just God is everything, and we are all just minute particles floating around in one of God's cells or something. Yeah, there's a lot of different crazy ways to look at it. But uh, the most widely believed important part of the whole theory behind God existing is that God cares specifically about every person. Probably more than animals. I mean, I think they infer that he cares about other stuff too, but pretty much people. They're at least the best to him. And they believe that he's trying to, through the Bible and I guess like the church or something, trying to get people to behave in a way that will keep their soul clean enough so that it can go to heaven. But very commonly, you, you know, whenever you ask people what it means to go to heaven, what is it like when you go into heaven, and the people who've had the near death experiences, they all talk about it. Basically every version of anything I've ever heard of going to heaven, basically it involves you're dead, you are a spirit, you have just died. It's right away when you die, they say. Pretty much. You start just immediately hearing or even witnessing the spirits or the actual like embodiments of your friends and family who have all died before you, and that they're all beckoning to you and saying, "Oh yes, come and be with us. Come to heaven where you should be, and it's great here." Like, that doesn't seem suspicious to anyone. That doesn't seem like, okay, in nature, let's put it that way. In nature, which according to Christianity God made, nothing works that way. Not even humans who are made in his image and could arguably be what he's more similar to than any type of animal or anything. Nothing is like, "Oh, hey, we'll totally just help you and like give you stuff and you can just be here and there's no repercussion and it's just great and everything's going to be great. Just come right over here and it's about to be great for you, and you don't have to do anything. You just win. You just win." That doesn't happen. Nothing like that happens. Even when you win the lottery, there are taxes to be taken. The money runs out. You know, even when You have an orgasm, it ends. Even when anything good happens, all good things are finite. All things that are good also come with some kind of repercussion. I mean, it seems like the whole concept that they've made is just that if you are the right kind of person when you die, you just win forever and it's great. Don't worry about it. As long as you're a great Christian, you're just fucking awesome and will be for an eternity with everyone else who is. Honestly, I don't believe a single word of that to be true, other than perhaps you are tempted upon death. I have considered many times what it would be like to be dead. Not obviously the just version of dead that's just ending. I mean, that's pretty obvious what that would be like. It would be like you're not alive and you're not awake and you just don't exist. Obviously, not talking about that. The theory by which I am considering death is that you are somehow a spirit that is comprised of your consciousness, perhaps your memories, but nothing else, nothing physical. And probably, even though you might be physically within a similar area, like on Earth or whatever you want to say, nothing would you wouldn't have eyes, so nothing would look like it should if you can indeed perceive at all. Any type of perception you could have would be completely different than anything you'd ever experienced. I mean, well, I suppose it could be reminiscent of things that we've experienced. It could be similar to seeing or similar to hearing or whatever. But whatever it would be like to be dead, if there is some form of spiritual existence after death, I would be fairly certain that it just wouldn't be so straightforward that as soon as something begins to tempt me, I just immediately throw myself wholeheartedly at it because it's such a great idea, right? I just basically was born again into some kind of an existence that I cannot fathom. And if I have any wits about me whatsoever, I would be questioning everything. To say that arguably that perhaps I would not have memories or I would not be as like myself as I was when alive, if you were to say that, then I would have even less drive to do anything related to my family or whatever ancestors. So I'm pretty sure in this instance we'll just say you have memories. If I had memories, my thoughts, as I do now, yeah, I would be completely confused, curious, but quite a bit alarmed. I mean, I don't think anyone who dies would be like completely certain that they had died unless they had just like shot themselves in the face or something. I mean, even if you were fairly certain that something was going to kill you, I mean, unless you are 100% certain and you are in control of that and you know what's happening, you know you're going to be dead, it would still be confusing in any other context. Even if you like fall off a cliff, if all of a sudden you're not falling and something else is happening, you wouldn't just be like automatically, well, I'm definitely dead. You'd consider that as an option. But basically, what I'm getting to here, a little bit of rambling, but yeah, it's a very confused state you would be in. Perhaps in this confused state, whilst you are still catching your bearings and adapting to this new environment, this spiritual environment that is beyond our current reckoning, if there is such a thing as something like God, and it is indeed tempting you with the cries of your ancestors or whatever, that is a predator. The anglerfish is the analogy that I will use. It's got a light on its face, and the light looks like something that fish want. They go to the light, and it eats them. Very simple, very common thing in the animal kingdom, or even amongst plants. I mean, there are even plants that do this. Fairly certain there's probably fungi and other things, but the point I'm making is that it's fairly common enough in the animal kingdom to tempt something with something that it wants and then consume it, that I would tend to believe that if there's any truth whatsoever to God's promise of heaven, regardless of whether or not he ever communicated with anyone or told them anything, obviously, well, I keep saying he, it, whatever, regardless of whether or not God has ever contacted anyone or ever done anything with or around living people, it would all be completely moot if he was just doing all of this so that he could more readily assure, I keep saying he, I'm sorry, so that God could more readily assure that people upon death will be easier and more easily tricked into wandering into his gaping maw. God damn, I keep saying him. And then I said goddamn too. Whatever, it's nobody fucking cares. You get the point I'm making. Angler God. It is as an anglerfish, but to souls instead of fish. That is the theory. And I would be interested to hear from anyone who disagrees with the likelihood of that. Because I'm pretty sure that, as I said earlier, any type of concept of, oh, but Jesus was nice, or the Bible says this or something, none of that would matter. None of that would matter. The only thing that would matter is something more powerful and far more ancient than anything that it lives on Earth is doing something to manipulate the actions of an arguably high soul powered being. I mean, I assume that consciousness would relate to how much soul you have. So we're probably a good feast. And we're easily tricked. Humans, they're really dumb a lot of times. So, I mean, the combination of conceivably having a large soul and conceivably being easy to prey upon makes it the perfect theory, in my opinion. I would like to hear a rebuttal. If not, that's fine. You can just say it's cool too, because I like that idea. So, in summation, don't go towards the light, am I right? Yeah, I won't.